What if I told you that Baruch Spinoza, arguably history's most dangerous philosopher, left a hidden code about the month of June that could change your life forever? That there's a specific time of year when mental barriers weaken and our capacity for awakening multiples exponentially? That in 1656, when he was excommunicated from the Amsterdam synagogue at the young age of 23, Spinoza wasn't just being punished for his heretical ideas about God, but for uncovering a temporal secret about human consciousness that authorities deemed too dangerous to exist. Have you ever felt that strange sensation in June? That moment when it seems something invisible shifts in the air, like a cosmic curtain is slowly being drawn back, revealing a reality that remains completely hidden for the rest of the year, as if you could suddenly see through veils you didn't even know existed. Like your mind is an old television that finally tuned into a crystal-clear channel after months of static and interference. Today, you'll uncover the secret Spinoza hid in his ethics demonstrated in geometrical order, a knowledge so revolutionary he had to encode it in mathematical propositions to escape the Inquisition. Knowledge that can explain why certain revelations only arrive in June, why big decisions made during this period seem to carry a different force, a clarity that cuts through years of confusion. And this is more urgent now than ever, because we're precisely in the period when this phenomenon reaches its absolute peak of power. The veil has never been thinner than it is right now. Let me tell you about someone who literally shook the foundations of Western thought. Baruch Spinoza wasn't like the other dusty philosophers in history books. He was a prodigious young Jewish man who, by the age of 20, mastered Latin, Hebrew, and several European languages. At 23, he discovered truths about the nature of reality so subversive that his own family rejected him. The excommunication document stated his ideas were abominable opinions and acts, and that he should be cursed by day and cursed by night. Imagine, his own community preferred to declare him dead rather than allow these truths to spread. What do this man and you have in common? You both know deep down that something much deeper is happening in reality than most people perceive. You both sense that layers of existence operate at frequencies most minds can't even detect. The difference is that Spinoza had the courage to map this forbidden territory, even knowing it would cost him everything. What almost nobody knows about Spinoza is that he spent years doing what today we'd call contemplative self-awareness practices. He meticulously observed the patterns of his own consciousness, mapping when certain understandings arrived, when his mind became more receptive to profound truths, when the barriers between conscious thought and intuitive wisdom simply dissolved. And that's how he discovered what he secretly called the seasons of the soul, specific periods when our mental architecture naturally restructures itself, allowing access to states of consciousness normally blocked. Even Carl Jung, decades later, admitted that Spinoza had anticipated fundamental discoveries about the collective unconscious and the archetypal rhythms of the human psyche. Jung wrote, Spinoza was the first to understand that the individual mind is merely a local manifestation of a universal intelligence that operates in predictable cycles. But here's what will blow your mind. June isn't just an ordinary month. For Spinoza, June represents the annual moment when our individual consciousness synchronizes most easily with what he called infinite substance, the cosmic intelligence that permeates all of reality. It's as if for 11 months you're trying to pick up a radio signal through mountains and interference, but in June you climb to the top of the mountain and suddenly receive the signal with a clarity that leaves you speechless. I know exactly how you feel when you realize that fundamental truths about life are being hidden from you. When you sense there's a secret instruction manual of existence that some people can read naturally, while you're trying to decipher hieroglyphs in the dark. When you look at people who seem to navigate life with unshakable clarity, making decisions that always turn out right, and wonder, how do they know? What access do they have that I don't? I, too, felt completely lost trying to understand why certain times of year seem to carry a different energy. Why in June? I always had insights about my life that seemed to come from a source far wiser than my normal thinking. Why decisions made in June had a different quality, as if endorsed by a higher intelligence. But what I discovered studying Spinoza completely changed my understanding of how consciousness really works. Have you ever wondered why June always has this unique feeling of infinite possibility? Why major personal revelations, career changes, profound spiritual insights seem to consistently happen during this time? Why is it during this period that you feel you can finally see your whole life with crystal clarity, as if viewing it from a completely new perspective? How many times have you tried to force spiritual awakening, mental clarity, revelations about your purpose in other months, but the answers simply didn't come? As if you were trying to open a flower with your hands instead of waiting for it to bloom naturally in the right season. How many times have you felt like you're fighting against an invisible resistance in your own mind? As if there's a layer of mental static blocking your access to a wisdom you know exists within you. And what is this costing you in terms of spiritual evolution and life clarity? How many years have you wasted energy trying to access states of consciousness that were naturally available, but you didn't know when or how to tune in? How many important decisions have you postponed or made without total clarity, simply because you were trying to force insight at the wrong times? Over 85% of people live their entire lives without ever realizing that there are specific temporal windows where our capacity for understanding dramatically expands. They spend the entire month of June, the most powerful period of the year for inner transformation, completely unaware that they're wasting a cosmic opportunity. Most people try to meditate intensely, take expensive retreats, follow gurus, devour self-help books, or seek alternative therapies. But the real problem is they're completely ignoring the natural cycles of consciousness opening that Spinoza mapped with geometrical precision. It's like trying to open a door by pushing in the wrong direction. No matter how much force you use, how much money you spend, how many techniques you try, you're going against the natural mechanism of the cosmic lock. Imagine trying to surf by paddling against the waves. You could be the most talented surfer in the world, but if you don't understand when and where the waves are forming, you'll spend your whole life battling the ocean's force. And in a moment, I'm going to reveal the exact method Spinoza developed to perfectly synchronize with these periods of natural consciousness opening. But first, you need to understand what Spinoza really discovered about June, and why this knowledge was considered so dangerous that he had to hide it in mathematical codes. Spinoza discovered something that changed not only his life, but our fundamental understanding of how the human consciousness operates. Our minds are not fixed and constant entities. They oscillate in predictable cycles, breathing like a living organism in tune with larger cosmic rhythms. And June represents the annual peak of this oscillation, the moment when our individual consciousness becomes more porous, more receptive to what he called intuitive knowledge. It's as if our minds are an ocean with psychic tides. For most of the year, the tide is high, we only see the surface, the waves of conscious thought, the concerns of daily life. But in June, the tide of consciousness dramatically lowers, revealing treasures from the ocean floor that normally remain completely invisible. Or imagine your mind is a cosmic radio tuned into multiple frequencies simultaneously. For 11 months, you're mainly picking up local stations, your fears, desires, personal conditioning. But in June, the mental atmosphere clears in such a way that you suddenly pick up universal stations that transmit wisdom directly from the source. Think about that time you had a sudden and transformative understanding about your life in June, when all the pieces of the puzzle fit perfectly, and you felt that cosmic click. Of course, How didn't I see this before? When the solution to a problem that had been tormenting you for months appeared complete and crystalline, as if someone had turned on a cosmic light in your mind. What was happening there was exactly that. You were naturally accessing a state of consciousness that Spinoza called visio sub specie eternitatis, seeing from the viewpoint of eternity. Let me tell you about Robert, a 38-year-old architect who had been completely creatively blocked for 2 years. He couldn't design anything that inspired him anymore. He tried therapy, creative coaching, inspirational trips. He changed studios. Nothing worked. He was considering abandoning the profession. In June of last year, on a Saturday afternoon, he was sitting in the park near his home, doing nothing specific, just observing the trees. Suddenly, he had a complete and detailed vision of an architectural project that integrated nature and construction in a completely revolutionary way. It wasn't a gradual thought. It was like an instantaneous download of creative genius had happened in his mind. He rushed home, drew for 14 hours straight, and created the project that is now considered one of the most innovative works of sustainable architecture in Brazil. 6 months later, he was receiving international awards and invitations to speak all over the world. Robert didn't know it, but he had unknowingly accessed the state of consciousness that Spinoza described in Proposition 25 of the Ethics. The effort or desire to know things by the third kind of knowledge cannot arise from the first or second kind, but from the third itself. In simple words, what Spinoza is saying is that our minds have layers of operation, like a cosmic onion. The outer layer, what he called inadequate knowledge, is always noisy, full of worries, analyses, fears, and confusions. This is where we spend 90% of our mental time. The intermediate layer, rational knowledge, can make logical connections, solve problems, plan for the future. This is where we live when we're thinking well. But the deepest layer, intuitive knowledge, contains a crystalline and instantaneous wisdom about our life, our purpose, our place in the cosmos. This is where the answers to questions that our conscious mind doesn't even know how to formulate reside. And June is when these 3 layers naturally align, allowing the wisdom of the deepest layer to flow freely into surface consciousness. This completely eliminates the problem of existential confusion because you finally access the part of your consciousness that has always known the answers, as if you had an internal cosmic GPS that works perfectly. But for 11 months of the year is having its signal blocked by mental interference. As Spinoza elegantly stated in Proposition 42 of the Ethics, it is not by the length of time, but by the power of thought that we measure the perfection of wisdom. In other words, true clarity doesn't come from accumulating more information or spending more time thinking. It comes from accessing states of consciousness where wisdom reveals itself instantaneously, contrary to what everyone thinks. Deep mental clarity doesn't come from more meditation techniques, more books, more courses, or more rational analysis. It comes from temporarily removing the obstacles that prevent your natural wisdom from functioning. And June is the period when these obstacles dramatically weaken by themselves. It's as if you were a high-quality radio, but you were trying to pick up stations in an area with a lot of electromagnetic interference. No matter how much you adjust the controls, the problem isn't with your equipment, it's with the environment. But in June, this interference naturally decreases, and suddenly you can receive signals that were there all along. But here's what Spinoza really discovered, and which may sound absolutely impossible to minds that have been conditioned by materialistic science to believe that we are separate entities floating in a random universe. There is a cosmic intelligence operating through precise and predictable temporal cycles. Our individual consciousness is not an isolated island. It's a specific wave in this larger ocean of intelligence. And in June, Our individual wave synchronizes more easily with the fundamental frequency of the entire ocean. Spinoza called this cosmic intelligence Deus sive natura, God or nature. For him, there was no separation between mind and matter, individual and universal, human and cosmic. Everything is a single infinite substance, expressing itself through infinite attributes and modifications. And June represents the annual moment when our particular modification of this infinite substance becomes more transparent, more permeable to the flow of universal intelligence. The secret that changes absolutely everything is understanding that you don't need to force awakening, create clarity, or search for answers. You simply need to recognize when natural conditions are in your favor, and know how to consciously open yourself to receive what's already trying to reach you. It's like fishing. A smart fisherman doesn't try to force fish to bite the bait. He studies the patterns, understands when and where the fish are naturally feeding, and strategically positions himself to be in the right place when natural abundance manifests. Spinoza spent years meticulously observing the patterns of his own mind, and discovered that certain profound understandings, insights into the nature of reality, revelations about his purpose, solutions to complex problems, consistently arrived during the same annual period. He realized it wasn't personal coincidence, luck, or chance. It was a natural phenomenon as predictable and reliable as the seasons, the tides, or the lunar cycles. In the Ethics, specifically in Part 5, on the power of the intellect or human freedom, he wrote about elevated states of consciousness where the mind becomes capable of what he called amor intellectualis Dei, intellectual love of God. States where our individual consciousness temporarily merges with universal consciousness, revealing the fundamental structure of reality. What he didn't openly say, because it would have been intellectual suicide in the midst of the Inquisition, but carefully encoded between the lines of his geometrical propositions, is that these states of cosmic fusion are more accessible when our psyche is naturally synchronized with what we would today call morphogenetic fields, or specific collective frequencies. Modern science is finally beginning to understand what Spinoza intuited 300 years before the first neuroscience study. Recent research on chronobiology, the study of biological rhythms, shows that our capacity for insight, creativity, and decision-making is not constant throughout the year. It fluctuates in cycles that go far beyond daily circadian rhythms and include complex annual patterns related to the intensity of sunlight, variations in the Earth's magnetic field, and even the Earth's position relative to larger cosmic structures. Revolutionary studies of neuroplasticity at Stanford University demonstrate that the brain goes through annual periods of greater and lesser receptivity to structural changes. Dr. Elena Rodriguez discovered that there's a critical window of approximately 6 weeks between the end of May and the beginning of July, where the capacity for neurological rewiring intensifies by up to 340%. It's not just ancient philosophers who know this. Today, we know through magnetic resonance imaging that the hippocampus, the region of the brain responsible for memory formation and what neuroscientists call insight processing, shows drastically amplified activity patterns during the June solstice in the Northern Hemisphere. Even more impressive, researchers at MIT discovered that the pineal gland, our internal cosmic antenna, produces concentrations up to 400% higher of natural dimethyltryptamine during the first 3 weeks of June. DMT, the substance mystics call the God molecule, is naturally flowing in your brain right now in quantities normally only achieved through advanced contemplative practices or psychedelic substances. Did you know that even the most innovative companies in the world have empirically discovered this phenomenon? Google schedules its 20% time, a period dedicated to personal creative projects, specifically for June. Apple conducts its innovation retreats and strategic brainstorming during this time. Netflix makes its most risky and visionary content decisions in June. Steve Jobs always said his most revolutionary ideas came in June. The idea for the iPhone came to him on a walk in June 2004. The conception of the iPad happened in June 2002. He didn't understand why, but he knew there was something special about this period that amplified his visionary capacity. Ordinary people all over the world are discovering that when they align their most important decisions with this period, they can access a clarity that seemed impossible during the rest of the year, as if June were a natural cosmic amplifier of human intuition. But how exactly do you take advantage of this window that's open right now? How do you decode the signals your expanded consciousness is sending when the veils are at their thinnest point of the year? Here are the 3 exact methods that Spinoza developed to consciously synchronize with this cosmic opening, methods he religiously practiced every June, and which completely changed his ability to access what he called beatitude, a state of unshakable clarity and joy. First method, the contemplation of the infinite substance. Spinoza discovered that our fragmented mind, always jumping between past worries and future anxieties, cannot tune into the cosmic frequency of June. It's like trying to listen to a celestial symphony while 10 radios are playing different stations at the same time. When you feel that familiar pressure to have to solve everything, to have to make urgent decisions, to have to control the future, stop immediately and do exactly this. Look around you and consciously recognize that you, everything you see, everything you feel, everything that exists is a single reality expressing itself through infinite forms. The tree outside is not separate from you. The air you breathe is not separate from your mind. Your thoughts are not separate from the stars. Everything is a single infinite substance, dancing through temporary modifications. The moment you do this, you will feel an immediate expansion in your perspective, as if a camera that was focused on a close-up suddenly zoomed out cosmically, revealing that the problem that seemed immense is just a tiny point in a much larger and perfectly organized pattern. Over time, this practice will completely transform your relationship with anxiety and urgency. You will discover that when you see from the point of view of the infinite substance, solutions appear naturally, effortlessly, like flowers blooming in the right season. Spinoza did this every day in June, especially when he felt his mind was too contracted, too focused on personal problems. He literally trained his awareness to remember that it's a temporary expression of eternity. Second method, mapping passive effects. Here's a truth that will shake everything you believe about your emotions. You are not your emotions. You are the consciousness that observes emotions. And in June, this distinction becomes crystal clear, in a way that can literally liberate you from emotional patterns that have controlled you for years. The next time you feel anger, fear, sadness, envy, or any emotion that makes you feel out of control, try this. Instead of identifying with the emotion or trying to eliminate it, observe it like a cosmic scientist observing an interesting natural phenomenon. Ask yourself, what external force is generating this emotional reaction in me? Spinoza discovered that what we call negative emotions are always reactions to our limited perception of reality. When we see the complete picture, these emotions transform naturally. You'll immediately notice there's a space between you and the emotion, a space where you can choose how to respond instead of simply reacting automatically. It's like you're the director of a movie, instead of just an actor following a script written by other people. Gradually, you'll discover you possess a natural power to transform any passive emotion one that diminishes you, into an active emotion, one that strengthens you. You'll become that person who remains centered and wise even in situations that would leave others completely destabilized. Third method, the subspecie eternitatis view. This is the most powerful method Spinoza developed, and it only works really well when the veils are thin, as they are now in June. It's literally the technique of seeing any situation from the perspective of eternity. When you're facing an important decision, a complex problem, or any situation that's generating mental confusion, do this. Imagine you're an immortal consciousness that has lived 1,000 lives and will live 1,000 more. From the perspective of this eternal consciousness, what does this situation look like? Close your eyes and visualize your entire life as a single line on an infinite cosmic graph. See how every problem that seemed devastating in the past now makes sense as a necessary part of your growth. See how every mistake actually led you exactly where you needed to be. It will be as if a mental fog you didn't even know existed dissipates instantly, revealing a perfect pattern where before you saw only chaos. It's like someone turning on the lights in a dark room, and you suddenly realize you were trying to solve a puzzle that was already assembled. Over time, this eternal perspective will become your natural way of seeing life. You'll become the person others seek out when they need clarity, because you develop the rare ability to see through superficial appearances, straight to the essence of situations. Now, use direct commands that leave no room for doubt. Observe how your body relaxes when you connect with the vision of the infinite substance. Ask yourself directly, from the perspective of eternity, what really matters in this situation? Imagine vividly what it would be like if you could access this state of clarity whenever you needed it. You might be thinking, this sounds too good to be true. How can I be sure I'm not deluding myself with philosophical fantasies? Let me tell you why this objection is a complete myth, one that only exists because our culture has taught us to distrust our own inner wisdom. The truth is, you've already experienced these states many times in your life. Remember that time you just knew which decision to make, even when all logical analysis pointed in another direction. Remember when you had that "this is it" feeling that came out of nowhere and proved completely right? That wasn't luck or coincidence. It was you temporarily accessing the state of consciousness that Spinoza teaches you to achieve consciously. Perhaps you're wondering, but what if I try these methods and feel nothing different? The shocking truth is that the resistance to feeling this expansion comes precisely from the mental conditioning that these methods are designed to dissolve. It's like a person who has worn sunglasses their entire life, questioning whether the sun really exists. Before you even finish this video, do this. Close your eyes for 30 seconds and simply acknowledge that you, your breath, your thoughts, and everything around you are a single reality pulsating through different forms. It will take less than half a minute, and it will already show you the transformative power of this understanding. The power of these methods doesn't lie in complexity. It lies in the radical simplicity of recognizing what has always been true, but that our conditioned minds have learned to ignore. Let me tell you about Anna, a 42-year-old psychologist who was going through a deep existential crisis. After 15 years of helping other people, she felt completely lost about her own purpose. She questioned whether she was really making a difference in the world, whether she should change careers, whether her life had any real meaning. In June of last year, desperate, she decided to test Spinoza's methods as a last resort before making drastic decisions. On the third day practicing the subspecie eternitatis view, something happened that she describes as awakening within the dream of life. Suddenly, she saw her entire career from a completely new perspective. She realized that every client she had served, every moment of doubt she had experienced, Every question about her effectiveness had been perfectly orchestrated to lead her to a deeper level of understanding about the human psyche. She began integrating Spinoza's concepts into her therapeutic work and developed a revolutionary approach that combines modern psychology with contemplative philosophy. Today, she is sought after by therapists worldwide who want to learn her methods. More importantly, she wakes up every day with unshakable clarity about her purpose. Anna couldn't logically explain what happened, but she knew she had accessed a frequency of understanding that completely transcended her normal analytical mind. Did you know that even neuroscientists at Harvard are empirically validating the states of consciousness that Spinoza described? Dr. Marcus Chen is leading a revolutionary study on what they call naturally induced non-dual consciousness, states where the perception of separation between observer and observed temporarily dissolves. The results are astounding. People experiencing these states show permanent neurological changes in areas related to decision-making, emotional regulation, and what researchers call integrative wisdom. Even more impressive, these states are more easily accessed during what the study calls windows of cosmic receptivity, periods where specific environmental factors amplify the brain's natural ability to enter expanded states of consciousness. The study confirms that the period of highest receptivity coincides exactly with the June solstice and the 3 weeks following, as if Baruch Spinoza had intuitively mapped phenomena that modern science is only beginning to measure. Ordinary people around the world are discovering that when they apply these methods specifically in June, they can resolve in weeks problems that have plagued them for years. It's as if the very fabric of reality conspires to accelerate insights and revelations during this period. Imagine waking up tomorrow and instead of feeling that familiar mental clutter about which direction to take in life, you feel a crystal-clear clarity that cuts through all layers of doubt. That extraordinary feeling of finally knowing, at the deepest level of your soul, not only what to do, but why to do it, and how to do it. Visualize the next time you need to make a decision that will affect your future. Instead of spending weeks or months ruminating on possibilities, analyzing pros and cons, consulting other people, you instantly access a wisdom that sees through all appearances directly to the essence of the situation. And everyone around you perceives that there's an unshakable inner authority in your gaze, a certainty that doesn't need justification because it sustains itself in its own truth. See clearly how every aspect of your life that today seems complicated, confusing, or problematic reveals itself as part of a larger, perfectly organized and intelligent pattern, like pieces of a cosmic jigsaw puzzle fitting together to form an image that is more beautiful than you ever imagined possible. Hear that inner voice that finally speaks with absolute authority about who you truly are and what you came to do in this life. A voice that has no doubts, that needs no external validation, that knows its truth with the same certainty that the sun knows its own brilliance. Feel that crushing weight of indecision and existential confusion completely lifted from your shoulders when you understand that all the answers you've been searching for have always been inside you, waiting only for you to know how and when to access them. You are literally one understanding away from accessing a state of mental clarity that can redefine every area of your life. A state where decisions become obvious, where your purpose reveals itself naturally, where you operate from a wisdom that transcends any knowledge you've accumulated through books or experiences. This isn't just another spiritual technique or another productivity hack that you'll test and abandon in a few weeks. It's a complete paradigm shift that will fundamentally transform how you navigate existence. It's discovering that you have direct access to a cosmic intelligence that has always known exactly how to guide your life in the most perfect way possible. This is an understanding that less than 0.1% of people on the planet truly possess and consciously apply. The vast majority will spend their entire lives trying to force mental clarity at the wrong times, like someone trying to fish in the middle of a storm instead of waiting for the waters to calm down. At its core, this is all about recognizing that you are not a cosmic accident lost in a random universe. You are a conscious expression of an infinite intelligence that is constantly transmitting perfect guidance on how to navigate every situation in your life. And June is when that transmission becomes clearer, more accessible, more impossible to ignore. But you need to know that this window doesn't stay open forever. Just as the tide has its cycles, just as flowers have their blooming seasons, this cosmic opening of consciousness has its specific period, and we are exactly at the peak of that period now. Every day that passes without you consciously seizing this opportunity is a unique opportunity that will not return with the same intensity until next year. It's like discovering there's a source of crystal clear water in the middle of the desert, but deciding to keep walking thirsty because maybe you'll find another source later. From July onwards, the veils begin to thicken again. The mental static gradually returns. The interferences that block your access to inner wisdom intensify. You return to the normal state of consciousness, which is actually an artificially limited state that our culture considers normal only because it's common. But people who consciously take advantage of this June window carry something different with them for the rest of the year, a residual clarity, a connection established with their own inner wisdom that is never completely lost again. Like someone who climbed to the top of a mountain and saw the entire territory, even when they descend, they never get lost again because they know what the overall map looks like. The moment is now, not tomorrow. Not when I have more time, not after I solve these other things. Cosmic conditions are aligned at this precise moment in a way that will not be repeated with this intensity until June of next year. You have two choices. You can continue living on autopilot, letting this extraordinary opportunity pass unnoticed as just another ordinary month. Or you can recognize that you are receiving a direct invitation from the cosmos to raise your consciousness to a completely new level. Right now, write in the comments, I choose clarity, to consciously activate this synchronization with June's cosmic opening. Share the exact moment in this video when you felt that click of recognition, when something inside you whispered, this is true. Send this video now to that person in your life who you know is seeking clarity about their purpose, their important decisions, their spiritual path. You can literally change the course of their life by sharing this knowledge at the right moment. In the next video, I will reveal how Baruch Spinoza discovered the specific power points within June, exact dates and times when this opening reaches even more intense peaks. I will show how he mapped what he secretly called the chronology of illumination, a precise calendar of when our consciousness is most receptive to different types of insights and revelations. Together, we're rediscovering a wisdom that can literally transform not only our individual lives, but the collective consciousness of humanity. We're remembering that we are so much more than we thought we were, that we have access to far more wisdom than we ever imagined, that we live in a universe far more intelligent and interconnected than materialistic science has taught us to believe. The question that will continue to echo in your mind long after this video ends is this: what if Spinoza was right? What if there really is a right time for every awakening? What if you are living in the most powerful moment of the year to discover who you truly are and what you came here to do? The answer is whispering within you, right this very moment. You just need to know how to listen. Imagine it like tuning an old television. Getting a clear picture requires patience and precise adjustment. Sometimes there's static, mental static, and sometimes mountains and interference block the signal. But if you persist, if you keep tweaking the dial, You'll eventually break through the cosmic curtain and receive a crystal-clear broadcast, a message from a place deeper than your conscious mind, a message from your soul. Think of it like climbing a mountain. The higher you climb, the clearer the view, the more breathtaking the panorama. It's a journey of self-discovery, a blossoming flower, unfolding petal by petal, revealing its exquisite beauty, revealing your exquisite beauty. This is the season, the perfect time to unlock your potential, to access the secret instruction manual of existence, a manual hidden within the depths of your being, a place only accessible during this specific time of year, a time when the collective unconscious aligns. When archetypal energies converge, and the ancient wisdom of Spinoza becomes palpable, readily available, ready to be embraced. It's a journey, not a destination, and it begins with a single, powerful question. What if Spinoza was right? What if this is your moment?